Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this live webinar series on Legal Expert Guide to Data Breaches and Ransomware Attack in the Southeast Asia. My name is Ng Woan Na, and I'm the Regional Legal Advisor and representative of both ASEAN and China Desk based in our DFDL Bangkok office. And I'll be very pleased to be the moderator for today's discussion. And just a brief introduction on DFDL. We are a full legal and tax advisory firm based in Southeast Asia, and an ASEAN born firm with nearly 30 years of history. We have developed dedicated regional and sector-based key practice group with, of course, technology and compliance being one of them. So our discussion for today will focus on the prevalence of data breach incidents and ransomware attacks in the Philippines. And as all of us may be aware, incidents on this front have increased at an escalating speed as the result of a shift of global consumers' usage towards online services, and with companies collecting an increasing volume of data contributed primarily as the result of COVID-19. So it is critical now more than ever for businesses and consumers like us to take data security seriously. And a couple of housekeeping notes before we get started. You can post your questions at any time in the right-hand Q&A window. We will do our best to read and consider all questions, but depending on the amount of time and questions we have, we will unfortunately not be able to address all of them. Of course, you're very welcome to email our speaker for any further specific question. So I would now like to introduce our speaker for today, Jude Ocampo. He is the partner of Ocampo Surabo Law Offices, which is a collaboration firm of DFDL in the Philippines. And a partner who heads the firm's privacy practice group. Jude also contributes to Linklaters Global Data Privacy Protection Guide. He has also been recognized as a leading lawyer in the corporate and M&A sectors by Asia Law in 2021 and Philippines top lawyer in 2020 and 2021 by the Asia Business Law Journal. Great having you here, Jude, today. Thank you for participating in today's session.
Hi, Ng Woan Na. Yeah, it's my pleasure to be part of this live event.
Great. So let's kickstart our session for today. So Jude, in the context of your jurisdiction, Philippines, please, can you share with us in terms of the level of growing prevalence of ransomware attacks, the top harms resulted from data breach, as well as the industries most commonly affected by such incidents? Well, of course, this can be made based on your advisory experiences or the statistics published by the Philippines local authority.
Well, the one that's been actually cited a lot, even by our authorities, is the publication or study by Sophos. It's commissioned, I think, in 2020 and surveyed around 5,400 IT decision makers, including in the Philippines. I think there were 150 of those. And bothersome number is that around 42% of the firms surveyed in the Philippines said that they were hit or they experienced ransomware attacks in 2020. This was actually a big jump, 30% jump from the numbers in 2019. However, compared to the rest of the world, it doesn't seem like these ransomware attackers have gotten much from the Philippines. Total payments made estimated is around $800,000. But still, it's a worrisome development, and just like in any other jurisdiction, the impact really is on, of course, the corruption or destruction of databases, right? Or of course, the withholding of information from the owners of the information. Sometimes there could be intellectual property, which is or other information stolen. And also, of course, there have been some reputational, operational, and even legal risks experienced by the victims of the ransomware attacks or breach attacks generally. globally, I understand that the top three industries are retail, education, and business. But in the Philippines, we don't have that much data. There's really no detailed analysis on this. What we do know is that the banking regulator, the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, keeps on reminding the industry to always be on the lookout and to protect itself. It actually issued just recently a memorandum stating that BSP, that's a Bangko Sentral, supervised financial institutions must strengthen their data breach prevention and control mechanisms. As a matter of fact, I think one of those incidents made it in the international news, where certain attackers were able to siphon off few $1 million out of a Philippine bank.
Thank you, Jude, for sharing these. So indeed, security incident, be it minor or major, can be devastating to organization and leading as what you mentioned, a loss of confidential data, irreparable reputational damage, and could potentially lead to a loss of customers and trust. And I also note that you mentioned about the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas issued a memorandum reminder to the BSP on further strengthening of their data breach prevention and control mechanism. But aside from these from these legislation, can you share with us more if there are any further governing laws regulating data breach incidents in the country?
Yeah, just to note, the BSP issuance is not really a legislation. It's more of a reminder that banks have security protocols in the manual of operation of banks and so on that they should follow, and that they should adopt the global standards in protection. But to your question on a law governing data breach incidents, the primary law, of course, is the Data Privacy Act, which was passed some time ago, but only been very actively implemented maybe the past 6 or 7 years. The rules on data breach actually require the personal information controllers to notify the National Privacy Commission with regard to that data breach within 72 hours upon knowledge of or reasonable belief that there has been such a breach. The implementing rules actually state what kind of notifiable breach, what are the notifiable breaches. The key issue there is essentially that if there are quite a number of persons involved, or the information of quite a number of persons are involved, and there is a reasonable belief that these persons would be damaged, then or receive serious harm, then there has to be that notification to the National Privacy Commission. Again, it's 72 hours. And I'd like to share, for example, that we do have some clients, right, where we draft a lot of their contracts, their data processing agreements, their data sharing agreements, and so on. And sometimes these relationships are cross-border. There are some processors in other countries who would rather have a longer breach notification period between themselves, right? So when a Philippine entity shares data or information to a foreign entity, the foreign counterparty says, well, you have 72 hours in your jurisdiction, give us also 72 hours. What we tell them is that that's not possible, right? Because the foreign entity has to notify the Philippine entity well within the 72 hours, so that then the Philippine entity can then notify the National Privacy Commission. So that's a very important note, right? This 72-hour period has an impact on the contracts between sharers or processors of information.
Thanks, Jude, for this high-level response from the legal domain, in particular on the requirement or notification requirement. So from the information you have presented, we understand there are specific law in place to govern data breach incidents in the Philippines, and of course, they continue to evolve. And of course, we know that cyber criminals, they do not discriminate, and we are seeing more new, more sophisticated forms of attack emerge regularly. So practically, how should an organization respond to internal and external data breach incidents? Can you share with us some of the top cybersecurity best practices, please?
Oh, sure. One thing we should be clear about is it would be our definition, right, of internal and external. Unfortunately, breach sometimes happens through employees of the company, right? So those would be what we would classify as internal data leaks or breach. The external data leaks arise from cyber criminals or those who access it from outside, of course, the organization. Also, one distinction we can make is that sometimes internal data leaks can be accidental. Of course, definitely, some would be willful, but external data leaks are almost always willful, right? They use ransomware, malware, phishing, and so on. And also, just to let you know, there is this something happening right now in the Philippines. It's called smishing or SM data breaches that originate from SMS. I myself have actually received some of these SMS messages. It states, for example, that good news, we are currently on sale. Please click this link. And I don't really know if I've never clicked on the links, of course, but it says that their link is supposed to lead them to Lazada or Shopee and those online sellers. And I never click those links. Others say target people who are maybe experiencing job problems. If it says, do you want to work from home? If you do, please click this link. Again, I myself would be wary of those. I never click them, but I would think that others may have, which has led the National Privacy Commission to actually send out an alert to the general population about this practice, because normally those links may lead to some fraudulent activity, right? One documented case was that the individual who clicked the link was made to link that phone number and her identity to a Facebook page that he or that she never signed up for, right? So now, when there is a data leak or a breach, we note that there are actually three types of these breaches, right? Number one, there's what the NPC calls the confidentiality breach, which results from the unauthorized disclosure or access to personal data. The second would be an integrity breach, resulting from alteration of personal data. And the third is availability, which deprives the victim of access, right? Which results from loss, accidental, or unlawful destruction of personal data. The solution would be twofold: non-legal and legal, right? Of course, the non-legal solution would be definitely to take care of that breach immediately. Conduct an analysis of the systems, especially what information has been compromised. And if the analysis shows that there has been a notifiable breach, then be very mindful of the requirements of the National Privacy Commission to notify the NPC of that breach. the NPC has not been remiss actually in reminding the industry or various industries that the PIC, the information controller, must always be wary of these situations and notify the NPC immediately.
Thank you, Jude, for the responses in drawing the difference between the internal and the external breach, and for sharing with us some of the practical and useful suggestions, both legal and technical solutions. So it goes without saying that data breach response plan has also become a critical component in doing business in this modern era. So on this front, can you share with the audiences in terms of the guidance on how to best create, implement, and also to refine a comprehensive data breach response plan, please?
Oh, sure. Actually, the good news is that, again, the National Privacy Commission in the Philippines is actually quite active in these, right? And it regularly issues guidelines and even discusses how best to deal with them, right? And the NPC actually issued, it's called the NPC Circular 16-03, that essentially is a guide on how to put up these, for example, these breach response teams and how to deal with these situations. So the guide includes information such as how to create a data breach response team, how to implement certain organizational, physical, technical, and security measures, implementing also of incident response procedure. Essentially, what's going to happen? What will you do when this breach takes place? And remember, you have 72 hours to figure out the data or what's affected, to determine if you're going to go to the NPC and so on. And also some tips on guidelines on mitigation of possible harm. So there is already that guide in the issuances of the privacy regulator in the Philippines. That's and the clients or companies are satisfied actually in adopting these. By the way, they find them very clear and very helpful when they start or they upgrade their data breach capabilities.
Thank you, Jude, for highlighting some of these pertinent points from the published guide. So moving to my next and also the final question, and this relates to in the case of a transfer of data from the Philippines to other countries. Can you discuss some of the precautionary measures which companies can take to better prepare for such transaction, and in order to prevent any potential international data breach incident?
Yeah, so precautionary measures are actually necessary, right? Not just advisable, because you want to be ready when a breach happens. So an important process that organizations must undertake, and I think this is a global recommendation by experts and regulators, is that the organization has to perform a privacy impact assessment, right? They should know what information goes in, how the information goes in, the possibilities of the information going out, and how these would be released, and how these are processed. So, and then note that the organizations change. So your privacy impact assessment can't be done once and then, forgotten. You have to update that either regularly based on time or based on incidents. If you change your processes, adopted new processes, ask the clients or customers new types of information and so on, or change the way you use the information, you have to keep on updating your privacy impact assessment. The next one would be adopting a data governance policy, right? Practically everyone in the organization that handles personal information must know about the data governance policy, because again, the response to a breach is a team effort, right? The users of the information, finding out how it came out and so on. the whole organization must have a privacy mindset, right? Again, the sometimes in organizations there are those who would say, well, it's a balancing act between the goals of the organization and the goals of protecting privacy. The fact is, it's not a balancing act. Privacy must be injected in any plans or activities of the company. They have to. They shouldn't be seen as against the goals of the company, but they have to be seen as a given. And you have, when you try to formulate the goals, you have to include the privacy there as well. Then I guess the others would really be related to constant monitoring, capacity building of the team, and then, as I said, stressing the importance of privacy in everything the firm does.
Thank you, Jude, for sharing your thoughts and valuable inputs indeed on this topic. And so now we will move to our Q&A session. We will take a few minutes to go through some of them. Let's see what we have at this stage. Okay, Jude. So earlier you shared that data privacy rules, they provide certain types of data breach incidents being notifiable or not. So in the case if data breach incidents is notifiable, can the person avoid or delay notifying if he or she does not have all the information yet?
Okay, so that's actually a very good question, because I can see the situation where they want to be able to give, maximum information to the National Privacy Commission. The answer to that is that general rule is you cannot delay, right? Because a notification, the purpose of the notification is not really to provide all of the necessary or important information. That happens even after the notification, right? Because then there has to be a deeper analysis of this, and the NPC would be involved in determining the implications. So the important thing is that there's notification, so that among others, the NPC can determine whether the data subjects need also to be notified. The only reason to delay notification is only if such delay is necessary to prevent further disclosures or to restore, or if it's needed to restore integrity in the information and communication system. But even that can only apply very in a limited way, because even if that is the case, delay cannot be justified if there are more than 100 data subjects involved, or the disclosure of the information or sensitive personal information collected by the company will adversely affect the data subject. So again, even if you need more time to fix or to remedy the information and communication system, if these circumstances exist, more than 100 people, or there is a likely serious harm to the data subject, then there's no way for you to delay it. You have to notify the NPC.
Thank you, Jude, for answering this question. So thank you as well for this very insightful discussion. So it is now the end of our webinar. So for companies, for business who have yet to create a data breach response or needed a fresh one, we hope this session will be a useful tool and that you will find some of the useful suggestion, key consideration, as well as the needed attention when it comes to creating a new set of plan or to refine an existing plan for the purpose of improving data security posture. So if you have any related question, please do not hesitate to reach out to Jude, our speaker, or myself via emails as indicated on this page. And this session has been recorded and will be available at our DFDL website and social media. And we thank you for your attention, and it is very honored to have all of you in participating to this webinar. Thank you. Thank you, Jude.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.